Hi, this is a quick overview of the Endorphin.es or the Endorphin.es Furthrrrr Generator. I'm going to go over the main functions and features here and basically show why it's amazing. I'm not going to demo everything in full, but I'm going to attempt to summarize the manual so you don't have to read it before you have a play. And hopefully the idea is by the end of this video, you'll sort of know what it's capable of. So let's dive straight in. Well, it's essentially a 2-oscillator module with a whole host of modulation capabilities. It's essentially broken down into 4 main modules. You've got oscillator 1, oscillator 2, you've got a modulation section down here in the center, and you've got a wave shaping section on the right hand side as well. Both oscillators can be used as discrete standard analog standalone oscillators. You can import keyboard pitch or an exponential, CV, FM into all of them. So really simple so far, just like most analog oscillators. We've also got soft sync and hard sync on them both as well. And you've got a number of wave shaped outputs here. You've got a sawtooth, a sine and a square on both. There's a sawtooth, a sine and a square on oscillator 2. On oscillator 1, you've also got an external in, and oscillator 2, you've got a noise out, but you've also got these 2 main outs as well. They replicate each other, the 2 of those. And I should mention that although it comes with 2 analog oscillators as standard, you can buy a digital version of the second, snappily titled An Instant Through Zero Linear FM with strong zero VCO core. I think that covers it. And that's an update for this, and it gives linear FM for those sort of more precise, sharper, sort of more harsher. Maybe it's best explained as being a more digital sound with it being a digital oscillator. But I think it basically gets rid of the round edges. And DivKid's done an excellent video showing this very unit with one of those installed with some really great patching examples. So it's well worth checking that out if you're interested in this as well. But going back to what we've got here, both oscillators have got these really nice precise tuners which work over 10 octaves and 10 rotations. Let's just put this into a sawtooth on that. Turn one up. And that's really handy, having that precise control when you're trying to match up for FM tones. Absolutely brilliant. You can see it's got these red and blue lights, and when I press an A, when both of them are lit, I'm exactly at an A. It's a bit easier lower down, actually. There you go, that's now playing an exact A. Really handy. So if I'm below A, it's blue. If I'm above an A, it goes red. So a second ago, I was 3 octaves down on the keyboard trying to play a really high note, which is why it's a bit difficult to get it into tune. And they both got the same. Oscillator 1's also got a low frequency mode, so it can be used as an LFO, obviously. And oscillator 1 is used to modulate oscillator 2 in a number of ways, all accessed via these switches here down the center. So we've got a ring mod. Let's just plug that in. So we're now listening to oscillator 2. Got amplitude modulation. FM. And we've got this Furthrrrr generator, which is sort of adds a really complexly harmonic wave into the equation. And you can have any combination of those, obviously. So all sorts of goodness you can get from that. It's really nice. I'm not showing it off to its full. I'm just doing a quick overview of it. But if you know how to use FM or AM or ring mod, you know what this does. So this section here modulates oscillator 2, and oscillator 2 has also got its own wave shaping section as well. So you can think of oscillator 2 as the main oscillator. I think it's called the carrier in West Coast terms. That's the modulator. So let's just have a little play with it. So we'll start off with oscillator 1 only. Let's make sure that's turned up. Then we'll have a listen. We've got the sawtooth, sine. If you've got a sine, you've got yourself a kick drum, haven't you? If you just modulate the pitch. You've got a pulse. And you've got your external in as well. And you'll notice this little switch up here in the top right. I'll take the lead out to make it more obvious. And we've got the sawtooth, the sine, and the pulse, as well as random. And that's selecting which of the waveforms is going to be used for the modulation. And if we have it on random and we put an external signal in there, we're using an external signal. So it doesn't change what you're hearing from these outputs, but it changes what's going into, on this little aeroplane, into the next section. But on its own, it's still a very nice sounding oscillator. Let's knock it down a bit. So there again, we're on a perfect day. Really big and fat, that, isn't it? Sine. So you've always got a sub, haven't you? All very nice. And you've got soft sync and hard sync inputs there from other oscillators. Or it could be from oscillator 2. So with nothing being modulated, we're going to get a sine. But we do also have sawtooth, sine, and square, as well as noise. Plus we can hard sync it to oscillator 1. Oh, that's mean, isn't it? I better just turn that down a bit. Or soft sync it, and if you look at the manual, it's like an inverse of the wave. It's sort of like a reflection of the wave almost. So now moving over to the modulation section. Let's have a listen. We'll modulate oscillator 2. So just listening to oscillator 2 for now. We'll use a sawtooth to modulate oscillator 2. Let's take the sync off. And then we'll turn the modulation up. All those beautiful ring mod tones you'd expect. Let's try some amplitude modulation. Again, amplitude modulation. Just all sounds really nice, doesn't it? And then we go to FM as well. Really, really beautiful. And what I've found while I've been using this is it's really easy to get really melodic stuff like that from FM, whereas often you're trying to get stuff like that and it's always a little bit too metallic or it's all a bit out of tune. On this, it just seems to all fall in place. It's really well done. And then we'll move over to the Furthrrrr Generator. Try and get them perfectly in tune. And you can see on the oscilloscope that sort of mad further wave. And just look at what it does to those harmonics. Extremely rich. Let's just detune this. Just amazingly easy to find all those sweet spots. Really, really nice that, isn't it? So moving over to oscillator 2 and have a look at these wave shapes. We'll start with the sine. Then we'll add some symmetry. Really interesting that, isn't it? Sort of symmetrically widening and closing that gap. Let's take that off for a second and have a look at the further generator. So there's that harmonically rich wave, and then let's add some symmetry to that as well. Let's play down with that. What sort of formant sounds we're getting there, aren't we? Sort of vowel sounds. And now let's take a look at this blue knob here. And this blue knob is called order. And what it does is it knocks out the orders of harmonics, I suppose. And takes us back to a sine. So I think it's a bit like having a non-resonant low-pass filter. And you'll notice here that you can modulate it, so obviously you can bring an envelope in, and using the envelope you can modulate your filter. And then you can get a little bit more complex, obviously. I'm only showing the sort of basic functions of this, but you've got FM on both of them, so you could modulate the frequency of oscillator 1 with oscillator 2. So let's take an output from the sawtooth and put it into the FM in on oscillator 1. Let's just listen to oscillator 1 on its own. And now let's modulate oscillator 2 with oscillator 1 that's already being modulated by oscillator 2. Let's try that with a bit of FM. God knows what's going to happen. Just playing a little bit with a filter there, but... all sorts of madness. And now I'm just going to have a little play around with a filter. And that's the sort of stuff I've been doing with it. And it's just so easy to create those big, rich, complex modulated tones. Absolutely fantastic. So from my perspective, it's an absolute winner, this. It's quite an expensive module, but you do get two oscillators, I suppose, and you've got the modulation section and the wave shaping section as well. But all together in a package, it's a really, really powerful tool. Highly recommended. Well, I hope that was of some use to somebody somewhere, and if it was, please think about subscribing, or maybe take a look at my Patreon page where I've got over 6 hours worth of tutorials showing how to program a synth module by module. So really good for getting to grips with the basics of modular, but also really good for ditching presets and working out how to do stuff yourself. So I'll see you next time.